Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking to Angela Topping. So, Angela is from Conscious Coaching and Consulting CIC. So, welcome, Angela. Really, really lovely to talk to you today.
Hi, Kate. Lovely to meet you as well. Thank you for inviting me to talk about what I'm planning to do.
Yeah. So tell us the story so far because you're newly registered, aren't you, as a kick?
Yeah. So I just registered as a kick just in November. So we're just now in early January. So I'm very early in my journey of being a kick. But the idea of being a kick's been with me for a number of years now. So the concept behind it all actually came around during the pandemic. Do you want to hear about how I got to this point?
Yeah,
Would that be
yeah,
helpful? Yeah.
definitely.
So I worked full time in higher education in the NHS for nearly 26 years. So it's a very long time. So pretty much out of university, that was the sort of one of the first main roles I got. And during the pandemic, I was head of a team which worked across the academia in Newcastle University into Newcastle hospitals. And what we were focused on was, finding a vaccine and finding treatments to sort of go forward with the pandemic. And in that time period, it was brilliant for me because it took a lot of the bureaucracy that I'd been sort of accustomed to for a number of years, and used to fight quite a lot but not get very far. And understanding, the freedom that we had to operate in that time could make such a huge difference. And just observing what was happening at the time, we had a common thing to do. Mental health and well-being was being impacted, particularly for those who worked in the health and care system, because of the pressures that were on them during that time. So when we got to December 2020, and I remember the moment well, I was in the lakes just having a moment with myself, thinking, crikey, we've done this, we've found a vaccine, we've put it in, it's been a hard slog, but I can't go back to this world of bureaucracy. I want to be able to do something which makes a difference to people, because that's what matters, not process and policies. And yes, they're important, but that's not how we're driven.
Mhm.
And just watching what was happening with the workforce and the morale and everything else, and I just thought I need to do something different, and I didn't know what that looked like. And I had this complete moment of clarity at that point that I needed to make a fundamental shift for the next 20 years of my career, because I couldn't continue to do what I did, because I had that opportunity to do something different. So at that point, I took the decision to do, what did I do? I did a physical. I did my personal training qualification first, because that was quite easy to do. So I'm a qualified PT, focusing on behaviour change and well-being and mental health and diet. I then signed up to do my master's, my MSc in coaching and mentoring. I became a mental health first aider, and I became a Samaritan, because what was evident during the pandemic for me as well was we are more than our job, and we are more than our job title and our role at work. We've got everything else which is going on around that. And if you've got other pressures going on outside of your work, it's going to have an impact on who you are at work, and focusing on that whole person and what matters to them. So that was where that came from. Doing the research project I did focused on solution focused coaching. So it's the boundary between counselling, which is a clinical intervention, and coaching, which is non-clinical, but it can make a difference to your thought process. Using the outdoor space, again, using that environment with its therapeutic angle to help with your mindset and with your health and well-being. And I worked with women who were in health and care roles. And the reason for that was the majority of those who work in those roles are women, and they have other pressures going on, not just from a personal perspective, but other things as well, predominantly. And how can we work together to keep those individuals well? And the reason for the kick came about was because coaching tends to be a service or whatever, which is given to those in positions in a hierarchy. And that's not right. Anybody should get access to coaching, regardless of if they can or can't afford it. So that was where the model came from. I graduated in December 2023 with my MSc,
Woohoo!
and yeah, and I knew that by the end of 2024, I would not be doing the job I was doing. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what it felt like, but I just knew I couldn't continue in that space. And I took the brave move. People say it was brave. I don't think it was. I think it had to happen for me, for my, for my purpose and my values, to leave my role after 26 years and set up my own business. So I started this journey in September. So it's still very, very early days,
Mhm.
but it's driven by my values and my commitment, I think, to social justice and purpose, which is why the kick came about. So that's why we are where we are now. So
That's amazing. It's so
yeah,
interesting because quite often when you're talking to founders about their startup stories, um, quite often people to talk from the point of starting the business, whereas actually your story is a perfect example of how much work goes on before you
yeah,
even get to that point, before deciding your legal structures and your bank accounts and all of that kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the nuts
Uh-huh.
and bolts elements. But all of that really deep personal reflection
Mhm.
around what is the contribution that you're wanting to make in society, that kind of very outward facing almost service level approach,
Yeah,
isn't it? And then
yeah.
also that balance of, and what do I want for my life in that
Mhm.
role? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it was
really
a
interesting.
yeah, it was a complete wake up call because in my time as well, as I've grown up myself, the world has moved on quite a lot, Kate, and the gap, the inequality gap,
Mhm,
is so big now between the haves and the have-nots, is what I refer it to, and that's just got bigger, and the evidence is there. It got bigger during the pandemic,
mhm,
and that's what I was witnessing as well, and being part of that. This gap was so big. And the ones who we relied on the most during the pandemic were the ones who get paid and respected the least and feel the least value. And that to me is completely wrong. And it's okay. Then
yeah.
I couldn't change it from within the system I was working in. What could I do outside of the system to help those who are in it?
Mhm,
As a business myself, because it is highly bureaucratic, it is highly governed, but it doesn't necessarily, for me anyhow, it doesn't necessarily need that when you're focusing on that individual and what
yeah,
matters to them, and they sometimes get stuck in a system which isn't addressing their needs.
yeah.
And that again is all coming out through the NHS plan, and we're focusing around prevention as opposed to treatment, focusing community based as opposed to hospital prevention. So it as social prescribing, so it aligns to all of those. And with it being a non-clinical intervention, it takes pressure off the already overstretched clinical services as well.
Mhm.
So that was the thought process behind doing this. It's quite novel. Outdoor coaching is an emerging practice, and again, because it is emerging, it's trying to get it a convinced, commissioned service, if you will, is going to be a long process. But for me, the evidence is there, it's building, and it can make a difference. It
So
might not be for everybody, but it'll be there for somebody who needs it.
yeah, I mean, uh, just thinking from a personal perspective, just going for a walk and chatting
Mm.
through challenges with my husband, work stuff,
Yeah,
home stuff, whatever. Um,
yeah,
the outdoor walk element is crucial. If we were sat on
mhm,
the sofa having a chat, I don't think that we would have the depth of conversation that we can have because we're focused on the walk. So I'm wondering
yeah,
if you can help paint a picture for us a little bit more about what's involved with the outdoor coaching
yeah,
element. What's
no
the
problem.
product or service that people can
Yeah.
access?
So the research I did actually, Kate, was exactly that. It was a case of, okay, I had women who I was coaching already in my volunteer roles, who worked in the health and care system, and those coaching conversations were taking place in an indoor environment. So it could have been in an office, a coffee shop, whatever it may be. And I recruited 5 of these women to the study to say, okay, let's take this conversation outdoors then and see if the experience
Mm,
of the outdoor space makes a difference to you, because it depends on what matters to you in your social context. And sometimes people might think, I don't want to do that, that's
mhm,
fine. But the 5 of them, yeah, we'll do that, and we'll see what that was. So the research was done with, like I say, with 5 women from different parts of the health and care system. And the research, when we did it, it was all about their experience and their quality, the difference it made to them. So it wasn't about the numbers, it was about the quality of that coaching conversation with them. And the evidence came back from those 5 around, okay, then so if you're sitting in a one-to-one, normally you're sitting across from each other, that's more intimidating, if you will, than walking side by side. And the idea of coaching is that if you're walking and talking at the same time, and this did actually come out in the research itself, was they felt more at ease, they felt more they could be more of their whole self, and they felt less judged by that eye contact because you were by their side and therefore in partnership with them rather than being in a position where you're better than them, or because it doesn't matter. And this again matters to me. It doesn't matter what qualifications I've got. It doesn't matter. It's about the quality of the coaching environment that you're in, so you can be who you are and feel that you're not being judged, and you can be the best version of who you are. So
Mhm.
that was one of the things which came out. The other thing which came out was what's in the research itself was what's called soft fascination. So your brain, from going back to your primitive brain, we're not used to being in an office environment. That this isn't natural for us. If we go back through history, the outdoors has always had a big part, and there's evidence there already about the therapeutic nature of nature in the wind blowing through the trees, or the waves, the sound of the waves, or the sound of water, or the birds tweeting. That does something to your parts of your brain, which takes you off into a different space and therefore gives you that opportunity to think differently. So using that as a thinking partner, as I called it, just to see what's going on out there. So a few weeks ago, I was in a park doing some coaching, and just a couple of squirrels ran across, and oh, look at that, and it can actually be a perfect pause in a conversation,
Mhm.
to use the outdoor space as well. And the speed of your walk slowed down as well. So we started off quite good. I've just left this and I'm raging. And then as you slow the walk down, the pace goes down and the thinking gets clearer. So again, that's the difference between the indoor and the outdoor coaching. Plus, it engages you again with the outdoor environment, and we need to do more with the environment, and how can we use our environment. And living in the northeast, we've got some fantastic outdoor space. We've got the
Yeah, yeah.
coast, we've got parks, we've got woodland. How can we use that to our benefit for our own health and well-being? Because it's free.
Mhm.
We don't have to pay to access these places. What can we do to make best use of the resources that are already on our doorstep, really? So that was the whole concept behind it all. And it's really nice to hear that you find it as well. So it does make a difference, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
research is there to back it up.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
quite a science
definitely.
behind it then by the sounds of it. Interesting.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, yeah,
what are your plans then? Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
this has got to be a business that is going to make you some money so that you
yeah,
can stay out of that work and
yeah,
shut that door well and truly and do
yeah,
something really, really impactful with this organization. So
yeah.
what's your business model here? What have you got? What are the plans for you going forwards?
Okay, so the plans going forward are to have the mixed model of both commercial activity. So actually selling this service into organizations
Hmm.
as a potential, coaching is something which organizations buy into anyway. But using the outdoor coaching and the added benefit around health and well-being, it's a massive, massive agenda in corporate world at the
Hmm.
minute. How do we keep people well at work? Because if you look at the statistics again, what's the highest rate of sickness absence? It's anxiety, depression, mental health. What can we
Yeah.
do? And because of the benefits of using the outdoor space on that, and that's already proven, what can we do with that? So
Mhm.
it's a case of how can I use the commercial income to come in, obviously take a salary out, which I need to, so I've
Mhm.
got bills myself to pay,
Yep.
and we've got a family and all the rest of it. But then use any surplus that comes from that to then give back to the communities that I'm really interested in working with. Also applying for grants as well, which is
Mhm.
where the kick came from, because again, it's about the social difference it can make. And using grant funding as well to offer this as a service to those parts of the community that wouldn't necessarily get access to outdoor coaching. And what can that do to support them in their health and well-being as well, and to lift everybody up, really, Kate. So that's the model I'm looking for. Like I say, it's very, very early days, and there's a lot of networking still to be done,
Mhm.
and making sure I'm in the right places to sell what this offer is and how it can make a difference. So I've got the evidence from my research, I've got the evidence from the volunteer work I've been doing in the past, and those individuals have been great in giving me feedback to say this is what it meant to me, and
Mhm.
hopefully it'll all come together, because I do believe it's something that we just it'll work for some and not others, but what we've got at the minute doesn't work.
Yeah.
The evidence is there. The current approach to well-being apps and what organizations do isn't even touching
Mhm.
the surface, because
So,
it's about you and your well-being,
mhm,
not what they think it should be, and the trickle-down effect. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So you've got the ears now of the Northeast Changemakers
yeah,
community. How
yeah,
can they help you? How can they access support from you? What do you want to say to
yeah.
them?
Okay, so at the minute, guys, well, what I've found since leaving my job after 26 years is it's going to be quite lonely. And it's about finding your network and finding your tribe. If you hear of anybody out there who you think would benefit from this service, give me a nod, please. I'm still in the process of setting things up. So I'm currently on LinkedIn and also on Facebook as Angela Topping Coaching Consulting. And this is something I learned setting the kick up, that they don't like kicks to be in your name, which is where conscience came from. So conscience actually stands for coaching in the outdoors using nature. So it's actually an acronym as well. So again, that's something I'm really keen on, that there's a conscience behind what I'm doing, and it's because there is a conscience into making the world a more fairer place. But it spells out what the service and what the business is. So if there's anything out there that you hear of, please just send them my way. So on LinkedIn, it's Angela Topping Coaching Consulting. On Facebook, it's the same. I've registered the domain name as for the website, and I'm now in the process of trying to find some support to build all the social media stuff to go out there, because it's about the networking, and it's just finding those connections that you need, and the right people, because where I've come from is not necessarily the network that I need going forward, and that's what I'm really keen to work on. So if there's anything out there that I can attend, or of anybody I need to link up with, please just let me know, because
Perfect.
this matters to me, and it matters, it's about making that difference, really.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
we'll share all of those links, so
Oh,
we'll make it
fantastic.
nice and easy for people to get in touch with you.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
Last question then.
Oof.
I know that you're fairly early on in your journey so far, but it feels
Yeah.
like it has still been a hell of a leg of a journey. So, what would your advice be, or have you had any light
Um,
bulb moments that you could share with people?
Yeah, so this has been a massive learning curve for me, Kate, I have to admit. So, I think I've been institutionalized for 26 years and working in big organizations, having access to, specialist support like IT, or, a printer,
Yeah.
little things like that. It sounds silly, but when you're in that comfortable place, to then walk away from that and think, okay, then this is me, this is about me. It's not about you, number one. So when people aren't coming back to you as quickly as you would think, it's not because of you. It's not a personal, even though the business is personal, you need to work on, and I'm still working on that. This is about business, and it's not about me as a person. So it's not a criticism of me. It's a that they've got other things going on in their life. Find your tribe, find who your support network is very, very, very early on, and get the support which is out there as quickly as possible. Because again, it's a massive learning experience. Things like, setting up the kick. Um, I wasn't sure at the time what the legal structure was going to look like. So I just went with my name to start off with, because people know who I am.
Mhm.
But then to realize 6, 7, 8 weeks in that that's not going to work for a kick was like, oh God, I'm going to have to think of something quickly then. Then to set a bank account up, that's a that is a that was harder than I thought it was going to be, Kate, I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you.
Mhm.
And it's these little things which you don't think are big, but when you're trying your best to get set up, they can be quite a challenge. So it's just to find who else has had the similar experiences, because there are, and that was a big eye opener for me at the Social Enterprise Day that I attended in November, just to be in that environment where people were saying exactly the same, so I didn't feel it was just me,
Mhm.
is so important, because it's a great network, and I'm really looking forward to being part of it more and increasing that network in 2025. Yeah, it's hard, and it's keeping those boundaries, I think, in place as well, around you keeping yourself well,
Mhm.
as well as what the business needs to, and getting those boundaries in. self-coaching, it,
Yeah,
it is dead
absolutely.
important. Yeah, really important.
None of this stuff is common sense. It isn't stuff that people are taught at school. It's either
No.
you know that you need a CIC 34 form or a
Yeah,
form, or you
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
And this is exactly where the development of this community came from, was
yeah,
to try and create a space that we can just for free share that knowledge, because we're
mhm,
all learning little bits as we go, which if there was a way of bringing that together, then
yeah,
we're just all going to be so much better for it.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm
definitely.
thrilled that you're part of our community,
Oh,
Angela,
thank
and
you, Kate.
thank
Yeah,
you ever so much for your time and sharing your experience so far. And
thank you.
I've got my fingers crossed. I've already got some people in mind that I think are going to be brilliant connections to you following
Oh,
this. So
fantastic. Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again
Brilliant.
soon, I'm sure.
Okie dokie. You take care, Katie. Lovely to meet you. See you
Cheers.
later. Bye.
Thank you for joining today's chat. If you'd like to be featured on the next series, please email hello@junctionpoint.co.uk. Speak to you soon.